So Elvis really got mad. He got up and he grabbed her by the hair and pulled her across the coffee table, which scared the hell out of me and everybody else, and they were really in shock. I didn't know what to do.
The enigmatic world of the iconic Elvis Presley, the rock and roll legend who left us too soon at 42, ever wondered about the mystery shrouding his passing and his final moments? Turns out, his last words unveiled a surprising secret, a side of Elvis rarely seen by his adoring fans. In today's video, we'll unravel the life, legacy, and unexpected revelations surrounding the unforgettable Elvis Presley. The life of Elvis Presley was truly a fascinating one. Stay tuned for a journey through the extraordinary life and tragic end of the one and only king of rock and roll. Early life of Elvis Presley. Before we reveal the jaw-dropping secrets of the legendary Elvis Presley, let's take a peek at the unexpected upbringing and humble origins of this iconic figure. Elvis Presley's formative years were anything but typical of a rock and roll superstar. The Jailhouse Rock maestro came into this world on January 8, 1935, in a humble two-room shotgun house in East Tupelo, as reported by Mississippi History Now. There was a period when this area was renowned as North Mississippi's toughest town. Elvis Presley's parents, Gladys and Vernon Presley, lavished their son with affection despite their poor means. Even before he was born, in 1978, I shared Elvis's father with good housekeeping, which deepened my affection for my kid. We were nearly the poorest people in town. When my wife Gladys and I were married, we were ecstatic when we learned we were going to have a family, he continued. The young family's happiness, however, was short-lived. After Vernon got in trouble for changing a $4 check, the family home that Elvis's father, uncle, and paternal grandpa had built was taken away by the time Elvis was 3 years old. While Vernon was serving an 8-month sentence, Elvis and his mother were forced to reside with extended relatives in Tupelo. The celebrity, according to a cousin of his, suffered greatly from witnessing his father's incarceration. The unlikely rise of Elvis Presley. It's hard to fathom that the future rock and roll king was originally thought to have no musical talent at all. Famous for his legendary songs and electrifying performances, the one and only Elvis Presley had less than stellar academic achievement in high school. Retired music historian Peter Guralnick claims that while Elvis was a student at Memphis's Humes High School, he was a long cry from the superstar he would become later in life. Actually, hardly one paid any attention to him because he was an outsider. Elvis had a hard time adjusting to his new home after his family relocated from Tupelo. We are all aware, though, that this is only the beginning. Elvis would later become a global icon and revolutionize the music industry, despite the dismal response he received while in high school. His unfaltering devotion to music led him to his life's work. Miss Marmon, Elvis's 8th grade music teacher, was not shy in telling him he was untalented. Did that, however, deter him? In no way. True Elvis music proves without a shadow of a doubt that Elvis possessed immense talent. He sang a heartfelt cover of "Keep Them Cold, Icy Fingers Off of Me" in class, proving Miss Marmon incorrect in his Elvis-inspired manner. That was the beginning of his meteoric rise to fame in the music industry. It would appear that Elvis followed in his father's footsteps when he worked various jobs after finishing high school, including driving a truck. However, his destiny was different. The miracle at Memphis Recording House recording service. In 1953, everything changed when he strolled into the Memphis Recording House recording service to cut a record as a gift for his mother. Little did he know that this seemingly simple gesture would set the groundwork for his rapid journey to celebrity. But what really happened? According to the New York Times, the official version goes that on July 18, 1953, a young Elvis stepped into the studios of the Memphis recording business to cut an acetate as a gift for his mother, Gladys. It was a wonderful gesture since she had purchased him his first guitar on his 11th birthday. For a modest $4, Elvis recorded "My Happiness" and "That's When Your Heartaches Begin," 2 songs that would eventually become renowned in the world of music. Ironically, his mother apparently never got to hear the recording, as the Presley household didn't even own a record player at the time. The beginning of Elvis's extraordinary journey. In 1956, Elvis made the switch to RCA Victor, a renowned Nashville label. It was here that he published Heartbreak Hotel, a song that launched him to popularity and became his first million seller. Suddenly, Elvis was a household name, and there was no turning back. But with all the fame and affection, Elvis never forgot his beginnings. His love for his family was strong, and he decided it was time to give back to the people who had loved him. Elvis was a man of his word. He purchased a colonial estate outside Memphis called Graceland, where he would stay with his parents and his cherished grandmother, Minnie Mae Dodger Presley. Even after his passing, Elvis's legacy lingered on through Graceland. His ex-wife, Priscilla Presley, turned the estate into a tourist attraction, drawing followers from all over the world. In fact, it became the second most visited residence in the nation. Not stopping there, in 2017, Priscilla opened a 450-room hotel across the street from Graceland, providing fans the option to immerse themselves in the world of Elvis. Graceland has become more than just a historic site. It's a location where fans can feel close to the king of rock and roll. It's a testament to the continuing legacy of a musician who continues to captivate audiences decades after his untimely death. The surviving twin. Just in case you thought you knew all there is to know about the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley had a twin brother. The legendary figure was actually one of two identical twins. His brother Jesse Garon was born 35 minutes before him. The saying goes, "The good die young," and it's tragic that Jesse was still born. Unmarked graves in Priceville Cemetery were used the following day to lay poor Jesse to rest. Elvis frequently addressed his late brother, Jesse, and the tremendous impact of his loss was evident throughout his career. Pete Whitmer's psychological biography, The Inner Elvis, states that Gladys Presley, Elvis's mother, thought that Jesse's death was a major factor in molding Elvis's fate to be great. It's important to remember that losing a twin is a significant loss. Linda Thompson, who was close to Elvis, once told the singer about a disturbing dream he had. In this dream, Thompson, who was actually Elvis's brother, told me the story of how Elvis had tried to save me but had choked to death. Wow, that is quite a bold claim. It seems that the surviving twin might be profoundly affected by the loss of their twin. Elvis probably wished he had a brother to help him through the dark days of his troubled life. A heartbreak that echoed through eternity. The tragic death of Elvis's twin brother profoundly affected his relationship with his mother, Gladys, and the trajectory of his life. Her overprotectiveness of her surviving son was understandable. She may have been tormented by the prospect of losing him as well. Aside from her tendency to be overprotective, Gladys was an unwavering support system for Elvis, and their relationship was indestructible. Elvis was devastated to hear of her untimely death at the age of 46 from a heart attack. As expected, Gladys was gone, and Elvis was already enlisted in the US Army. However, he was still permitted a brief leave to be with his mother, and he would later lose her. My best girl was Elvis the Rat. At Gladys's funeral, the anguish over losing his mother was obvious. He sobbed uncontrollably throughout the service, reportedly on the verge of hysterics from his excruciating pain. Elvis was reportedly quoted as saying, "Oh my, everything I own is gone," in an emotionally charged moment. "You were the reason I lived. You meant the world to me." As Elvis struggled to come to terms with his mother's death, the entire world shared in his grief. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning of the sad story that was about to unfold, and they had no idea. The globe was once again jolted by terrible news on August 16, 1977. A body was discovered in Elvis Presley's restroom. As millions of admirers wept over their idol's death, the news spread like wildfire over the world. However, as time passed, more and more concerns regarding Elvis's death arose. It seems like there was a backstory to Elvis's death that everyone missed. Many people were curious as to the true reason behind the downfall of this musical icon, and rumors and conspiracy theories abounded. Do you think it was just a case of bad health, or do you suspect something more sinister? The mysterious demise of Elvis Presley. Rolling Stones frontman Elvis Presley was unrivaled. The legend that encircles him is a product of his music, personality, and tragic death. On that tragic August 16, 1977, at his legendary Graceland mansion, what truly transpired? Looking more closely, we can uncover the hidden facts about Elvis Aaron Presley's untimely demise. He was discovered unconscious in the master suite bathroom by Ginger Alden, Elvis's girlfriend. His nonchalant promise that he would not doze off in the restroom was his last statement to her. Unfortunately, the monarch would never speak those same words to her again. Next, In 1980, hypertensive cardiovascular illness linked with atherosclerotic heart disease was listed as the cause of death on Elvis's death certificate. A heart attack, to put it more simply. Is it finally over? Very quickly, I'm afraid. This anecdote was met with skepticism by some admirers, believing that Elvis's death was caused by a deadly mix of prescription medicines. Several fans were doubtful of this explanation. Chief Medical Examiner Jerry Francisco of Tennessee, however, would have none of it. He denied these assertions categorically, saying that Elvis's death was due to heart illness and that the narcotics he had been using had no role in his demise. Nevertheless, not many were persuaded by this official story. Several pathologists voiced their disapproval of Francisco's investigation into Elvis's death after the fact, contending that a lethal cocktail of medications should have been determined as the cause of death. The authorities' tidy narrative for Elvis Presley's death belies the far complex reality. Prescription drug abuse was a problem for Elvis, as it was for many other celebrities of his time. Even though he was king of the state and all, the monarch fought his own demons behind closed doors, finding comfort in the kind of medicines you wouldn't find in a candy store. After Elvis's death, the toxicology report came back and listed all the medicines he had been taking. It appeared as though Elvis's bloodstream was a pharmacy, filled with opiates such as Demerol, Dilaudid, Percodan, Quaaludes and codeine. The Presley family asked for a private autopsy, maybe because they wanted to keep the information hidden. So the general population is left to depend on rumors and hearsay. Two of the pathologists who worked on the case didn't come clean about the cover-up of the official cause of death until much later. The public's perception of Elvis Presley as the rock star who was honored with a unique badge by the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs under President Nixon seems to have persisted even after his death. The death of the rock and roll icon due to a drug overdose surely wouldn't look nice, now would it? The truth, nevertheless, does eventually surface. It has been well known for decades that Elvis Presley died of a heroin overdose, despite the family's attempts to keep it secret. Yet, in 1977, things were murkier. Word of mouth was the only source of information available to the population. According to David Stanley, Elvis's stepbrother, in 1980, the singer's drug usage was unparalleled. Additionally, he was not referring to illicit substances. No, these were drugs that a doctor had prescribed. Some of the doctors, Stanley claims, were only interested in making a fast profit and were prescribing medicines carelessly. It seems like one doctor was the main perpetrator. The fact that Elvis's doctor, Dr. George Nikopoulos, was known to give out medicine like candy has made him famous. He gave Elvis more than 5,000 tablets and capsules of narcotics in the 7 months leading up to his death. However, that is not all. According to some sources, no one could pull it off but Elvis Presley. In the 20 months preceding Elvis's death in 1980, Nikopoulos had prescribed an astounding 12,000 tablets. It's enough medication to open a drugstore. Along with 19 other patients who had been overprescribed medication, Nikopoulos was finally charged in 1980 for his involvement in Elvis's case. Most startling of all, in the 20 months leading up to Elvis's murder, he was accused of prescribing 12,000 pills to the king. Surprisingly, though, by 1981, all accusations had been dropped. Some individuals just appear to have an uncanny ability to evade scrutiny, even when presented with mountains of proof. The tragic loss of Elvis's life serves as a sobering reminder that no amount of wealth or celebrity can protect you from the destructive power of substance misuse. Only fools rush in, as Elvis Presley once sang. Furthermore, he may have been overly ready to seek solace in prescription medicines as he sought to escape the demands of fame. Elvis was in the army. In 2018, after many years, Priscilla Presley made a shocking disclosure regarding her late husband, Elvis Presley. It was while Elvis was serving in the army that he first got caught up in the drug trade, says Priscilla. According to her, the troops were allegedly given medications to keep them alert. Thus, Elvis's addiction started. To begin with, how did he find himself enlisted? It all began not long after Elvis purchased his famed Graceland mansion. After serving 2 years in the military, he was sent to Germany. According to reports, this incident greatly influenced his career and public image, molding the individual who is known as the musician. However, many have rejected the official version of events, and the reality of Elvis's death is still a tragic mystery. Some have even gone so far as to claim they have sightings of the famed musician, leading them to believe in conspiracy theories. Are these conspiracy ideas, however, merely fantastical stories, or maybe they're not completely false? Conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theorists claim that Elvis's death on August 16th was anything but peaceful. No, that is completely unworthy of a legend of his caliber. Instead, they say he plotted a complex scheme to avoid the limelight and remain anonymous for the remainder of his life. How exactly was he meant to pull off his disappearance? A mysterious black helicopter allegedly circled above Graceland in the hours leading up to the discovery of Elvis's lifeless body. Strange occurrence? Think not, say the theorists. According to their beliefs, the legendary musician was taken away to a place of safety in this strange helicopter. Seen as a haven away from the constant scrutiny and pressures of fame, Bermuda is supposedly where Elvis has decided to start anew. Not only that, though. The Elvis Files, a documentary from 1990, purportedly showed a police officer claiming to have seen images of Elvis getting on board what seemed like a government chopper. Is this the last piece of evidence that demonstrates Elvis was a huge success? Claims that in order to evade the mafia, Elvis pretended to die. Elvis was supposedly recruited by the FBI to assist bring down a criminal organization as an undercover agent, according to author Gail Brewer-Giorgio. But when doubts about his allegiance surfaced, Elvis realized he needed substantial witness protection. Brewer-Giorgio fearlessly stated that Elvis pretended to die because he knew he was going to die. Additionally, a few perceptive detectives have brought to light an intriguing aspect of Elvis's tombstone at Graceland. You see, instead of Aaron, his middle name is spelled Aaron. Is the crafty king himself leaving a hint behind in this way? Elvis, being the superstitious man that he was, theorists contend, would not want his actual name inscribed on a tombstone if he were alive today. It is an absolute decree. Strong case, however, doubters will point out that Elvis did, in fact, begin using Aaron as his middle name in his final years. Is the conspiracy theorists' belief in this merely wishful thinking? What are your thoughts on these far-fetched hypotheses? Are you of the belief that Elvis Presley is enjoying a margarita on a beach, living it up to his legendary status? Or do you believe it's all nothing more than dog drool? Feel free to share your opinions with us in the space provided. Elvis Presley's final conversation. Tens of thousands of fans, many of them in tears, gathered outside the renowned home of the rock and roll star, Graceland, in Memphis, Tennessee, as word of his sudden death spread around the world. Ginger Alden, his fiancée, disclosed that the legendary actor had been overflowing with ambitious aspirations for his career and personal life. Elvis Presley, in particular, was a powerful man in his latter days. He exhibited immense bravery, as if he were a hero rising to the occasion. Even if it was a simple and sincere yearning, his desire for fame and money was fundamental. It wasn't a grandiose want for greater success or notoriety, nor was it a grief over dreams dashed. Instead, it was an intense need for inner peace and forgiveness. Elvis told his stepbrother he was planning to make a lot of changes to his life just 2 days before he passed away. Now that his stepbrother has spoken up, we know more about Elvis's last remarks, which reveal his regret for his acts and his ambitious plans for a dramatic change for the better. Recent revelations by Billy Stanley have revealed that his final meeting with Elvis took place at Graceland on August 14th, a few days prior to the king's tragic death. Surprisingly, they were engaged in a brief karate battle in the restroom. Legend has it that Elvis couldn't wait to show off his new karate knives to his stepbrother. In a light-hearted time, they began sparring, but things took a dark turn when Stanley accidentally punched the monarch, Elvis, a trained karate master, who responded quickly. Although Stanley was the one who ended up taking Elvis's counterattack, he did it with a light-hearted attitude, admitting that it was his own mistake. After the incident, Stanley described how Elvis took a moment to collect himself after accidentally hurting his stepbrother. He then led him to the restroom. As he stood in front of the mirror, Elvis seemed to be getting ready for an unexpected surgery, making a big deal out of nothing. Stanley, meantime, could do nothing except watch in utter bewilderment as the monarch made a big deal out of absolutely nothing. The narrative of the king's demise remained shrouded in mystery, despite its brevity. Following the short argument, everyone in the family quickly forgave each other, but Elvis quickly changed the subject by asking his stepbrother a deep question. Does God really pardon us when we sin? Stanley, surprised by the abrupt philosophical shift, reassured Elvis that they had talked extensively about this subject in the past. However, Elvis, who was feeling vulnerable at the time, really wanted to hear it spoken by his stepbrother. This need for pardon and harmony illuminated the frequently disregarded spiritual dimension of Elvis's life. Is it possible that Elvis was actually more spiritual than he appeared? The rock and roll, Saint Elvis Presley's mystical side, went unrecognized by his devoted followers, who saw him as a god of rock and roll. A man who sought God's will and comfort in all areas of his life lay beneath the trembling hips and curled lips. Billy Stanley, Elvis's stepbrother, claims that before taking the stage, the king would silently say a prayer. He prayed for a moment of calm and guidance before his performance, a routine that helped him connect with the divine and calm his nerves. Stanley stated that we realized it was him when we saw him lower his head. Elvis's spirituality, which was frequently eclipsed by his larger-than-life persona, was laid bare in that intimate moment. The time that Elvis sought supernatural intervention was not just before his concerts, though. The value of prayer and thankfulness were values he passed on to his family and friends. He would read aloud from the Bible and lead them in prayer before bedtime every night, teaching them important truths as they went. Having Elvis as your Sunday school instructor was an unforgettable experience, Stanley said. In addition to being a legendary rock and roll singer, the king of rock and roll was a wise counselor who encouraged his followers to laugh more, better themselves in relationships, and have faith in themselves. Elvis never let his fame or wealth cloud his faith. He read the Bible frequently, making note of verses that spoke to him and marking the ones he felt needed more emphasis. His music, like his life, was infused with spiritual lessons. Elvis Presley stayed close to God through music and prayer. Few people realized that he would sing gospel songs till daybreak after each performance. He was an exceptional human being, without exception. But even the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, was not faultless. The fact that his marriage has become a metaphor for troubled relationships shows that even famous people aren't perfect. Elvis's unhappy marriage. Let's go on a journey back in time to the year 1958, when Elvis Presley, the undisputed king of rock and roll, was drafted into the United States Army. It was during this time that he first became acquainted with the woman who would later become his wife. Now, this is the point at which Elvis Presley's dissatisfaction and his unhappiness come together. He is a wonderful human being. This is the point at which things start to become a little bit interesting. Her age at the time was only 14 years old, although Elvis, who is considered to be one of the most renowned individuals in the world, was a mature 24 years old. When Priscilla was interviewed by Barbara Walters in 1985, she admitted that it was her lack of experience that intrigued the superstar. Priscilla admitted that she had listened to him and that she had followed his suggestion. One could say that it is a rock and roll adaptation of the classic musical My Fair Lady, but in real life. According to the actress, she was shaped into the ideal woman that Elvis would have wanted her to be. Elvis Presley was a remarkable individual. After careful consideration, Priscilla revealed that I wore the clothes, haircut, and makeup that he had selected for me. It was almost as if she were his very own live, breathing Barbie set. Her hair was dyed black, just like his, and she wore it in an updo that was a representation of his famous pompadour. Nevertheless, as we are all aware, even the most glamorous of relationships can experience a difficult period. In spite of the fact that wealth and fame are all around them, Priscilla and Elvis started to grow distant from one another as a result of Elvis's continuous touring, his growing addiction to pills, and his not-so-subtle life. In 1978, Priscilla expressed her thoughts in an open and honest manner, saying, "Love me tender, love me true." However, there are situations when love alone is not enough to make things work. After reaching her breaking point in 1972, Priscilla made the decision to end her career. When I was 28 years old, I filed for divorce and completed the divorce proceedings a year later. On the other hand, there is greater drama. Elvis began a new connection with Ginger Alden following his divorce, and he asked her to marry him barely 2 months after they first met. This was the beginning of his new romance. Elvis and Priscilla continued to be friends, despite the difficulties caused by their marriage. During an interview with Closer Weekly, she affectionately recalled his departure in 1977 and said, "It's as if the world suddenly stopped moving." According to the legend, Elvis Presley, the king himself, had a premonition that he would meet his maker when he was in his 40s, just like his lovely old mother did. At this point, it is possible that we will never know whether he was a psychic of some kind or simply a very skilled person at bringing things into existence. However, there is one thing that is certain. In a startlingly exact manner, Elvis's forecast turned out to be true. Due to the fact that he was unable to refuse a favor from his manager, Elvis Presley made his final live performance in June of 1977. This was the last time he would ever perform in front of an audience. Can you tell me about his farewell song? The song "Can't Help Falling in Love" is the one in question. After that, on that sad day of August 16, 1977, the entire world said their final goodbyes to the man who had won their hearts with his sweet melodies and gyrating hips. However, despite the fact that Elvis had left the building, he will forever be remembered as the rock and roll king with our hearts. Thanks for watching this video. For more interesting stories about legends, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications to be the first to know when the next video is up.